Hi people, so in this video I'm gonna be, let's say, showing you what playing this priest looks like more in practice and not just what like the theoretical DPS rotation is or how you in theory weave the healing in. And I'll also give you some tips on just the, the Mists of Tirna Scithe dungeon on Mythic Plus. This is a plus 11 and I'll be pausing throughout the video and then actually start right here to explain what's gonna happen because it will be happening too fast for me to explain it in real time. So the pack that you basically always start with, this one right here, they have some weird magic ability. So what you should always do is start off with a master spell on the entire pack. And I've also pre-shielded the tank just to have atonement up. But they also do a charge on you, which will do a AoE damage and then apply a bleed to everyone who get hit by this AoE. So what you shouldn't do is stack up, and me not being full aware of this makes the mistake and stack up. So that's what's gonna kill me here. There's the master spell to remove the magic, and now I'm thinking, aha, I'll be clever and do the AoE. So I start spamming it. You can see the cleaves going off, you can see the dots stacking up, and I get the final cleave from the tank. I die, but such things happen, and now that you know that that's possible, you're not gonna do it yourself. As I make my way back, there's gonna be all these ghosts, and ghosts are really a big mechanic when you move into, I think it's plus 6 or 8 when they start appearing, so be aware of them. They hit really, really hard, so you can't tank them, and that's gonna be a issue for melee. On this fight, I'll be talking a bit more about the deep rest rotation I'm trying to do while I'm healing. So if you remember from the first video, you want to generally start with Penance or possibly Purge the Wicked, as Purge the Wicked usually is the spell that does the most damage at the end of the dungeon. And I think the reason for that is that this ability will just tick and deal damage while you can do other spells. So it's a good thing to get it out, but let's see. We'll get the Radiance because some people are dropping low. I know that they'll take more damage and I just want to get Atonement up. There we go. And then I'll do a Power Infusion. That's partly because I know that the mage is a real pumper and the rune is up. And I know that this is the packs in the beginning are actually the more difficult in the entire dungeon. So you want to use some cooldowns on them. Get the Dispel up on the tank as soon as I've done my big AoE healing. And then the Penance for some DPS, Power Word Solace, Mind Blast into Smite spam. So that was just a standard rotation, right? Solace, Penance, Mind Blast. Not in the perfect order, but in an okay order. Shadowlands to spot heal, and there's gonna be a lot of spot healing in Mythic Plus. There's gonna be a lot of mending. Now, I want to talk a bit more about the situation that just happened here. Unfortunately, I think I already had my mouse over the mage as he took this big damage, but the question now is, what should you do now? I mean, obviously you want to heal the mage, but should you shield him, which will be instant for about 2.5k, or I guess like 3k because you have the Twist of Fate active? Should you be casting a Shadowland, which will be a maybe a 7k heal in this situation in 1.3 seconds, maybe even 1.1 because of that one, something like that? Or should you do Penance? And what I actually do, which turns out to be the right decision, and I'm not entirely sure if I'm aware of that at this moment, but because I have the haste and I have Twist of Fate and the empowered Penance, it's gonna be some really good healing. I think I'll do like 12k or something. And even though like Penance is like if you want to get as much healing as possible out during like 2 seconds, Penance is the way to go. Shadowland will give you healing, but it will take a short amount of time and then you have to recast it. Power Word Shield will give you the shield, but then you have to wait for the global cooldown and then you'll have to start casting something else. So it's not always obvious, and often you can make mistakes here. Or I guess they're not really mistakes, because if it's a mistake, then you knew what you should have done and then you didn't do it. But that wasn't the case. So Penance, and it turns out that some pretty juicy 3.6k, 3.9, 3.8, I mean 2.7. Things worked out good. Get the pack down, and I think that now we'll just skip forward a bit. I don't want to not show you things. This is another pack where I can show you the DPS rotation again a bit. These packs are difficult and you should CC one. Now the tank did his incapacitate, but what you could also have done is use your mind control if you have dominance mind, which is a really good thing because you get more damage and you get one less enemy to deal with. We start out with Solace, then we do a Shadowland as a dot heal. We get the Purge the Wicked out to do a to start applying the dots. Whenever they do those Bramblewood things, just move as soon as your DBM gives you the warning. I think here I'll do a Radiance perfectly into a Mind Games, and that's a pretty strong heal. Now, you need to be aware that the big chunky boy over there has some pretty nasty things. This one isn't too bad, although you have to care about it. But he also does his like big AoE that I think he'll start do like now, Furious Trashing, and if possible, you wanna pre-shield this with Spirit Shell. And if not, you obviously wanna use Radiance and then just do your DPS rotation for AoE healing. Now you can also do Radiance just for the heal itself. You see here that everyone has, let's go back just slightly. Everyone has Atonement active, well except for me, but I haven't noticed that really. So I could have just kept DPSing, but I know that there's gonna be a decently big heal from just applying Atonement through Radiance. That's why I'm doing it now. And you can see that it does 4k on everyone, which is pretty neat. And now I can follow it up by, I think, Penance or something, or Smite or whatever. Some dot healing. You're about to see why you really wanna have Desperate Prayer keybinded to something fast. I have Shift V myself, so I can easily press it with my, I think, index finger and thumb. So everyone's dropping low, and this is also an interesting situation because if possible, you want to make the decision whether you're going to try and keep everyone alive or if you're going to let someone die and try and keep the remaining 4 alive. Obviously, the one dying shouldn't really be you. But so just watch my health now. Look at the percentage. There we get the Bramble thing. I'm down to 11. 6%. There's a tick from the bleed. I'm down at 1% now. This is the perfect situation, and as you can see, everything else is on global cooldown. Desperate Prayer is not, so I just spam it, and already, like, within half a second, I'm back to 21%. And, like, maybe I would have been able to save myself with a shield as the GCD was over, but just you could just see how very smooth that was, so that's an absolute lifesaver. Definitely is something that you want to do when you're desperate, and it will pay you back. And in the end, trying to keep everyone alive just worked out, but I think that if I didn't use Desperate Prayer, there wouldn't have been any way, it wouldn't have been possible in any way for me to keep everyone alive. What happens here, and this is an example of like, basically a ghost just smacks him in the face for probably more than half his health and he is insta-killed. Like, the ghost is an ability that you really, like, if they take just one hit before they get away, sure, you could heal that if they're at full health, but this is like, the ghost damage is the type of damage where the damage goes out like a punishment for not following mechanics, and that type of healing really isn't meant to, or that type of damage really isn't meant to be healed, because like, you really can't heal it, that's the point of it. And at the same time, there's damage that you're supposed to be healing, that's more like a healer mechanic. And my point of this is that the shaman dying there, like, you shouldn't try and learn anything from that. I guess maybe you could have life grip, but you couldn't have known possibly that he would have been the one targeted by a ghost, and there are other players nearby. So, like, you shouldn't, despite the fact that one guy died here, that doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong, so to say. That's the point. So just moving on, and in a situation like this, when you need to drink, everyone's low, everyone should eat, by the way, especially when they have access to mage food. And if you have someone else that can rest, like in this case, the tank can rest, he should be resting, which is what I think that he's doing when I think that he asked for a rest and I start resting, and then I just quickly look over at the tank, see that, okay, he's casting, he's resting, I don't have to, I can keep eating. What the Shaman should have really done is just release, because he doesn't have to run basically far at all. Now, another thing that's really important when you're in plus 10s or above, so in plus 11 that's going to be important, is to watch the percentage before every pull. Because what's going to happen this pull is that I think that as soon as one guy or two guys have died, you're going to get the big blood boy, and you're going to have to deal with both the ghosts, the remaining mobs, and the blood boy at the same time, and that's a lot of things happening at once. Also, I want to quickly talk about the fact that I'm casting Radiance here, and so everyone's basically at full health. They don't really need healing, but what I want to do is just focus entirely on DPSing, and what I like to do before I do that is just atonement everyone, because even if someone takes like 20% damage, I don't have to care, I can just keep DPSing and they'll be healed up. However, all the healing that I'll do now until someone would take that damage is basically wasted. So what you could have done is do the Spirit Shell, activate that, and then do the Radiance. And you want to do Spirit Shell before Radiance, as the direct healing from Radiance will be applied to the shield as well. However, because of the next pack we're gonna do, I want to save Spirit Shell, and that's why I only use Radiance when no one has taken any damage. So I just focus on the DPS, try and get the rotation, Solace into Penance, and there we have the Blood Boy. And now a lot of things are happening at once. So we did get all the NPCs down, or all the mobs, but now we have the ghosts. And I think that right now I'm only looking here and here. I'm not looking here at all, which is what I should be doing at some points as well. And basically what happens is that I'm too focused around my DPS rotation, so that, and my healing, so that I forget to like get an overall view of the situation. And there's a lot of red going on here. Like now there's red, and he's hiding behind like the explosion there from Purge the Wicked, and the red bar, and there's a shade, and there's a shade. That's probably just another thing, so I don't notice it. And you know, now there's even more red, and there's red there as well. And oh shit, I've gotten the blood bolts. I have to position myself in a good spot, so I'm really looking at like who's there and who's there, and I just completely missed those eyes throughout this entire situation. There's just too much happening. And I feel like I found a spot, and about now, like I realized, shit, I take damage, I better shield myself, and shit, there's a ghost. So I start spamming the fear, but it's just too late. There was just too much happening at once, and I was too focused around one thing that I forgot to look around. And I'd say that this is just one more thing that makes discipline hard, that in order to do it well, you have to focus on many things at once, and when you're focusing at many things at once, the chance of you failing at something simply increases. However, because you just watched me fail by, well, not seeing the shade, not seeing the eyes, that means that you don't have to do the same mistake. And you can see on the damage sound that, like 2 hits, anyone's dead, except for a tank who could probably take 3, but that's really damage that you're not supposed to heal. Maybe heal up once if they make a mistake, but if this happens, just release instantly and try and get back to the group and maybe save them if they manage to stay alive or even get it by themselves. You know, don't just keep going, and you can be, I don't know, disappointed in yourself later. However, the group makes it, and we're gonna skip ahead just a tiny bit. And here what you're gonna see is me making a mistake by overestimating the range of Radiance. So I have on the add-on, I'm not sure what the range is, but okay, let's see. If we move back a bit, you can see that they're not colored right now, and as I approach them, they become colored. So what I'm used to is that when everyone's colored, I can use Radiance and it will hit everyone, but Radiance only has a 30-yard range, and turns out that because many of my other heals have a 40-yard range, meaning that I could penance the mage, but I can't Radiance him. But I don't think about that now, so I use Radiance because, well, at least 4 people need it, and then I'll follow it up by a mind games. However, only the hunter gets hit. And, you know, you just need to be careful when using radiance that you're close enough to everyone. But there really doesn't happen much more right now, so we're gonna move ahead to the next pack right here. So, as for the Bramble Burst, just move out of it, there's nothing super special. I apply atonements, and oh yeah, here I'm gonna use the shield, because I know that they'll do their furious trashing. So, what you do is you make sure you're kind of in the middle. You activate Spirit Shell before you do the Radiance, because the healing from Radiance that we get now, that's 4k almost, will also do the shield. So I think that one is that's like the active Spirit Shell buff, meaning that all the healing you take will be transformed into a shield, and that's the shield. And the shield is refreshed whenever you increase it. So now we just spam the DPS, get out as much as possible. And I think that I do this, yeah, there we have a Furious Trashing. So you can see Spirit Shell just ended and there's the shield left. So it does absorb a few hits, and this also allowed me to turn all the DPS that I did during those 10 seconds into healing, despite the fact that no one was damaged. Now, sadly, the shield didn't do too much, but I think that they probably had a 6k shield or so that's something. Just get the Radiance out, do a spot healing, and you could also see that I used Power Infusion there. And the reason why I used it on a DPS and not myself, and why I got, like, why both got it, is because I have the legendary which, well, if you give Power Infusion to an ally, it's going to be given to yourself as well. And I just find it to be a really good cooldown for the entire group. And everyone's like half the group is at half health, so it's a pretty solid situation to pop the haste as a healing cooldown as well. Especially during Furious Trashing, so I think that there will be exactly Mind Gains coming in. I combine it with, as you can see, the cooldown just started for the self-heal, and just allow me to keep people up. Here I think I'll do another Radiance into Penance. And you can see there I used Penance because I can use it while I'm moving. I think I'll use, I don't even know, Solace for mana and healing, and things just worked out pretty good. As for the boss, is pretty easy. Like, you DPS down the long tree boy, you have some decent time to avoid the blue things on the ground. Avoid his like cone ability that he does now, and you want to be facing him when you're trying to see at which direction it's going, because it's kind of like a hollow animation, so to say. So it's not going to be entirely easy to determine which direction it's going unless you're looking at him directly. If you would have had Power Infusion, you should have used it on the top DPS, as the boss takes twice the amount of damage. And as for yourself, like, just shield the tank, keep DPSing. The hunter has so much health, so that healing him in any way now is really a waste of a glow ball, so just keep DPSing. And then we'll just move ahead. I don't think that there's anything more important happening. I get hit by the blue thing that he starts casting about now or something. Yeah, and as you see, I'm like looking at it from the side, and like I couldn't, like, sure, you could determine it by watching the footage in hindsight, but looking at it, like, when you're there in action, it's not gonna be as easy. And when you get hit, you first get feared. Or actually, no, actually, wait a minute. Bewildering Pollen. So I get feared. That's his ability. That's the tank doing the fear, or the boss. I'm not sure what triggers it. And then I get the thing. So I couldn't move out of it. So never mind. But the fact stands. Look at the guy casting the thing. It's just a disorient. So just heal it up. Nothing special. Do the Desperate Prayer on myself. And now we're gonna move up a bit. And we're gonna look partly at some of the packs, like the strategies, the tactics, some of the mechanics that comes now. We're also gonna look a bit at the DPS rotation, but besides that, I feel like we've gone through a lot of the medium advanced things, so I'm gonna be skipping ahead quite a bit now. As for these guys, when they do their, let's see if we can see it. I'll just comment on it when it happens. We're gonna talk a bit about this mechanic, right? The stumps and the marks. So what you want to do, first of all, of course, look at the fourth one, which doesn't lead anywhere or leads back. And you want to think about, okay, so what can it still be now? And the options, as you know, it's leaf and flower, it's color or colorless, and it's with circle or without circle. So there's quite a bit of options. But what you know now is, first of all, it cannot be colorless, and it cannot be a leaf. So it has to be something with color, or it has to be something with color or a circle. Okay, that's what you know so far. That is color, it's a flower, that one could work. However, you see now, I think, if we look at it, that, okay, there's the circle. So it still works, it could still be the flower with the color, as that's the only flower we've had. It could be this one, because it's the only one with circles so far. And there we have another circle with colored. So the only flower, that's what we're gonna go for. And there you see, by the way, Spear Flurry, don't stand in that thing. That's like the only mechanic of these reindeer looking guys. Centaurs, Mistral Defenders, whatever. Also, you can't move forward until you've killed the sprites. So let's look at the next pack now. I'll give you like one more example when it comes to clearing these things, and then I'll just try and talk about the important trash at this section of the dungeon. And this Mistral Stalker has some random ability where he bites someone. I think it has like a 40-yard range or something, and that on plus 11 is like 50% of their health. So you really need to DPS them down, and you want to keep people up, and you want to be ready for someone just dropping like mad. And I think that the mage is gonna do that decently soon. That was probably a bite, you know, that was from... Yeah, he was at 100%, and suddenly he just drops down to half health. And that was from the bite, from the skull. And I think the same thing happens to the mage. He takes some AoE damage, he's about to take the bite, and just... Let's see... Come on, chunk. Any second now. There we go, down to very low. So the first one was a colored flower. So what you know is that it cannot be something with color. That's... Wait, no, it has to be either something with a circle, or a leaf with color, or a flower without color. That's what you know now. Those are your three options. So as they're called off, let's see if we... And there we got... I think you could see just briefly. Yeah, okay, it was actually quite difficult seeing it. You have something with a circle, and it's a leaf with colors, so that could absolutely work. That could have been the path. There you have another flower. That one could also work, because that's without color. That's a flower without color, that's a flower with color. That was a leaf with everything, so you need the last one to determine it. We're just gonna skip ahead very soon. You see another flower, so you have 3 flowers. That's the only leaf, it's the leaf. Let's see now. I don't think that there's anything more important happening now until it's the boss time. There is a dragon as well that I think we'll get to now. It's nothing special, just don't stand in front of it for the Radiant Breath. He will also, or she I guess, whatever that is, will put down a circle on the ground which will heal people that stand inside it, so the tank has to move it out. You can see the tank also took a big chunk of his health away. There can be like a really big moth in this pack, and the moth will charge a random player and apply actually a poison it might be. And that poison will deal like, after that 4-second, 5-second timer's out, that poison will deal like 80% of their damage as AoE damage in a like 5-yard radius. So you really have to dispel that. Nothing special with this pack, it's just another stalker taking big chunks out of people. This is a tight situation, but we manage it again. Like, we can actually take a look at it just briefly. It's a matter of combining. And there I took another hit from the ghost. Desperate prayer on myself. Get the mage up with the penance. And here, you know, just position yourself well. Use Radiance for the AoE heal combined with your strong DPS abilities. Use Radiance again to keep it up, get some healing done. And you have, basically, you'll have 2 charges of Radiance during a whole encounter of a Manifestation of Pride. That's usually what you have. If everyone's at full health, try and like time it. Don't use it instantly. Try and get some value out of the direct healing. There's no ghosts now, so I can just properly place myself without hitting anyone. And I think that one comes off. In this situation, I'm just spam healing with Shadowman, because that's what's working. And things just worked out. Okay, let's continue to the boss. This is a very simple fight, to be honest. Don't get hit by the dodgeball. Dodge the dodgeball, obviously. And I just realized I should have buffed stamina. When he does the freeze tag, you have to really watch out for that one. And often, that wolf or fox will just spawn either directly beneath you or just to the side of you. Same thing again with the marks here. Find the odd one. In this case, it's the leaf, because it's the only one with not a circle. You want to use a Radiance just to keep people up. Don't DPS the boss during the guessing game phase, because she takes like 1% damage. Nothing special at all. Don't dot the freeze tag. Be a bit careful. Actually, I just realized it might have been me who dotted that mob, because I used penance on Mistcaller as it had purged the wicked, so it might have jumped over to it. That was unfortunate. That can happen. Nothing special. I don't think that there's anything more to say about this fight, really. Except for what happens here. Let's see, so she's about to cast freeze tag. Let's see when she does it. Let's see now. Yeah, she does freeze tag and it basically spawns on top of them. Yeah, right beneath him. And then it fixates in like 1.5 seconds and it freezes to player. And that's a bad situation. So what I should do if I would have done this like perfect, I think that would have been like shield, power barrier on top of them, radiance, and then mind games. And I do at least radiance and mind games, and it kind of works out. Anyway, we're gonna move on, look at some more trash. By the way, when doing the jump, just aim for the middle of the pool. Don't try and land to the sides, because you're gonna die from fall damage. On these packs, if you get a poison circle around you, move away from people and move away from other people who has the circle. If there's a swirling green vortex on the ground, move away from that, because that will push you around. If you get it yourself, I like to just put the shield on, because then you're both shielded for a bit and you'll also have the atonement on you for when the damage comes. One of these, I think the slightly bigger and more grey bug can cast a shield on everyone else. If that happens, just do the mass dispel. Here again, you should watch your percentage, because usually what happens is that with the big pull, you get the big blood boy. I don't think that there's any special happening really. The flying bugs, I don't know if I can show them to you. But basically there's 2 packs of bugs flying around and they apply a poison dot. Just dispel it. I think you can dispel it. Here we used fear to get him away. It was very smooth. Managed to get him down. I want to get a bit closer to apply radiance to everyone. Get it up there, mine the blood bolts. An overall smooth kill of a manifestation of pride. You should carry mana potions so that if you need them, you can just pop them. We're gonna move up ahead a bit again. Nothing special happening really. We get the final pack to get 100% so we can move into the boss with the 30% damage, 30% healing buff from the blood thing. Now obviously this was a very good group, and I mean if you don't have a good group, the healing is gonna be way more difficult, because the dungeon itself overall is gonna be way more difficult. It's like everyone, all 5 of you need to perform, and you can only do so much as the healer. And like especially as a discipline priest, you have, I'd say, a harder time than other healers. Not necessarily because you're less good, so to say, or because the spec is less good, but because it's more difficult to play well. Positioning myself, I don't hit anyone, I think. Things work out, be ready with the res. And also, just a quick comment on this, Blood Boys. Like, your goal is to not let the people die before this one dies. It doesn't matter if you end the fight with everyone having 20% HP, because as soon as it dies, you have a huge healing buff. You can just top everyone off directly. This one also gives you 5% mana every 5 or 1 second. You can see how fast it's ticking up. As for the final boss, there's not too much to think about. It's pretty straightforward. Do the interrupts. There will be, avoid the acid explosion. I don't remember exactly what it's called. When he does consumption, he'll get a weak shield. DPS down the shield, interrupt consumption, nothing special. When you get the parasites, you should move to the melees if you have them, so that they can just be cleaved down. As for, yeah, same thing again, consumption, just avoid the big things, do the damage, interrupt it. When he does the parasitic infestation or whatever it's called, you want to interrupt that as well. There we have it. Parasitic domination. If he gets that cast through, he will mind control someone and you will have to damage them for a bit to make them break the mind control. So just interrupt it, nothing special. Let's see if we actually can get the bugs going. As for Mind Link, just run away from the guy who you're connected to. With like further than 35 or 40 yards, that will break. And there we go. So here we go. If you get the marked prey, all the bugs will come running to you. They don't hurt super hard, and you can also just do the fair to send them away, but stack on the tank and they'll just be cleaved down. And so this was pretty much the whole instance. We did a pretty good run. I don't remember what the timer was at. 5 minutes, 10 deaths, so overall very smooth. And this is, Mists of Tirna Scithe is known to be a dungeon where we really have to keep the pace up, because there's not really time for too many mistakes. We're just gonna quickly see what we got, and then I think we're quickly gonna look through some of the numbers that we got as well. So you can look at this, if we pause it, this is the damage done during the entire dungeon. You can see that we had some really solid DPS overall. You know, the tank did a great job. The other DPS were really strong. And I did about 826. And like you can say that that's... I don't think you could argue that it could be insignificant. We're just quickly gonna add these things up. 3.7 plus 3.5. So overall, a total average DPS of 14.4k, and 0.8 divided by that. It was basically 5.5–6% more damage overall at the same time as you got the healing. And then on some fights, it was just more. Like on the... Yeah, usually on boss fights, you get way more damage done, because often the boss fights do less damage than the trash. So when I'm done looking at the items, let's speed up ahead a bit until I click at the... Let's see, yes, you can see Purge the Wicked tops the list by quite a bit, and it's partly because it's a very strong heal, but it's also because, I mean damage, but it's also because you can just apply it and then it'll do its job for like 20 seconds when you can just fully focus on healing. Smite, Penance, Mind Games, Power Word, Solace. Noxious, that's a trinket, which I just decided to use because it gives me a big amount of intellect, and I feel like I don't have anything else. My eye level here, I think, is 200 or 201. So here you can see the whole thing more in detail. Mind Seer, by the way, is really strong. You know, it's a great AoE, so if you do manage to do that a lot, you will do way higher DPS. But it's not good healing at all. And here you can see like the amount of damage you get out from them. I think I'll move up a bit and also look at the healing done, which I think is important to look at just to get an idea of like... So yeah, you can see that so much of the healing that you do is Shadowland, at least in this dungeon. And I think one of the reasons why that is the case is because, partly because, like, when you get into high enough keys, or when your item level is sufficiently low, so to say, the atonement healing just won't be that strong, and you'll have to start using spot healing. And that's why Shadowman tends to do way more healing in higher mythic pluses than it would do in lower. Like, if I would have done a mythic 6 in here, or even a 5 or something, then atonement would probably top this off by a mile, because I could just have focused so much more on DPSing and atonement healing. But you can see, and Shadowman is a strong heal as well. You can see the average was for 7.4k, and the cast time is like 1.3 seconds. That's pretty good. The downside is, of course, that it adds the ticking dot, but yet again, that dot can be removed if they take the damage from some other source. Let's see if I move through the other ones also. Shadowman did a bit. Atonement did its fair share. We have the Radiant healing, which you can see is pretty decent. You have the Penance on single target. Now note that Penance is also often used as DPS, which is why it's not higher. You have the Mind Blast. This is the Absorb from Mind Blast. And as you can see, it's actually not doing that much in the end. You have the Desperate Player on yourself. You have the Spirit Shell, which you can see it deals very little damage. So overall, it would have been better to pick a different end talent. However, it's very situational, right? And I just didn't really find any good situations to use it. And to be honest, I didn't use it too much either. But anyway, this was a pretty long video, I think. We've looked through this dungeon, Mists of Tirna Scithe, in decent detail. And we've looked a bit at the rotation for Discipline Priest. And you've gotten a view of how the playstyle looks like and what it's like. So hopefully you feel more ready to step into this dungeon, or just to heal with just heal as a Discipline Priest overall. Anyway, that was all for this video. I'll be doing one of these videos for each dungeon. I'll try and get like Mythic 10 or higher keys for them, and then talk about the tactics. In this dungeon, there's not really that many special tricks for Discipline Priest, but in some of the other dungeons, there definitely is. But anyway, that was all from me for this video. The coming videos will be way shorter, because I won't be going through the rotation at all in the same depth. But yeah, I'll be back soon, like I said, and until then, see ya!